About 10 years ago, lenses mostly fell into one of two categories. There were budget lenses, usually small, light, plastic, affordable, but with some compromises, and then there were the premium lenses, which offered incredible performance, great build, fast autofocus, and beautiful rendering, but also bigger, heavier, and significantly more expensive. And for a long time, recommending lenses was pretty simple. You either started with something basic or you saved up for the premium version. Over the last few years, something interesting has happened. This middle tier of lenses, the ones that are compact, well-built, optically strong, but still reasonably affordable, has gotten really good, to the point where for a lot of photographers, it's exactly what they need, and it's what I have started recommending most often. It's kind of like the Goldilocks of the category, not so compromised that you're constantly defending the optical imperfections, but also not so perfectly expensive that you can't afford to buy groceries for 3 months following your purchase. And lenses like this really didn't exist in the same way even 5 years ago. This video is sponsored by Viltrox, who sent over 2 lenses from their Evo lineup, the new 35mm f1.8 Mark II and the new 55mm f1.8, which joins the already existing 85mm f2 that I have right here. And one thing that I really like about this lineup, as you can see here, is they are all the same size, which makes them work well together as a small kit. Viltrox is not going to see this video before it goes live, and they don't tell me what to say, but I will say that this is my favorite lineup that they make right now, and it's a really good example of what this middle tier looks like when it's done correctly. So let's take a closer look at how these look, where they fall short, and what kind of results you can expect from them. Viltrox makes 3 different lens lineups right now: the Air series, the Pro series, and the Evo series. They have some others, but those are the 3 major ones. Out of those 3, the Evo is the most interesting to me because it's clearly designed around real-world shooting instead of checking off a spec sheet. The Air series is all about keeping things light and affordable and simple. The Pro series is about making the best optical performance, and I would argue the best build as well. But the Evo lineup sits right in the middle space, where the goal seems to be balancing size, features, and image quality in a way that makes sense for everyday photography. What makes this release more interesting isn't just the lenses individually, but it's the combination of focal lengths. A 35mm and a 55mm is a strong 2-lens setup for a lot of photographers. The 35mm is the go-to lens for environmental storytelling, for everyday carry, for travel. It's the focal length that is on the most number of non-interchangeable lens cameras, meaning that this is the focal length that is permanently attached to the most number of cameras out there in the world. The 55mm, on the other hand, is perfect for portraits, for subject isolation, for compression, and that natural perspective that everyone seems to be chasing. If someone asked me to build a lightweight 2-lens kit today, really these 2 lenses would be very close to what I would recommend, and that's where the physical design of these really starts to matter. In terms of build, these lenses are compact and well balanced. The 55mm is 368 grams and the 35mm is only 354 grams. They're a mix of metal and high quality plastics, and they feel like a significant step up over the basic Air lenses. Not as premium all metal like the Pro models though, they are right in the middle. What is great about these is that they are dust and moisture resistant. There is a gasket here around the mount. There is also a USB-C port for firmware updates, a nice clicky or declicked aperture ring depending on how you like to shoot, autofocus manual focus switch, a focus hold button, and a smooth electronically controlled manual focus ring. Both lenses have the same footprint, the same 58mm front filter thread, and STM motors for silent, smooth autofocus. The 35mm is 13 elements in 10 groups, whereas the 55 is 13 elements in 9 groups, and Viltrox is using apochromatic lens elements to reduce fringing and clean up bokeh and edges. It's advanced stuff that you see on Sony and Sigma lenses, and it's coming now to the middle tier. And this is exactly why the Evo line is such a good example of this shift. The build feels solid without being heavy, the controls are where you expect them to be, and the optics are no longer the place where you're making a major compromise. And this translates into performance. I shot both of these lenses with my Sony a7C, and the results were solid. Could you look at this and compare this to some G Master and Art lens and find flaws? Sure, but would any non-hyperpixel picky peeping person notice flaws? I would argue no. The images coming from these lenses are full of contrast with excellent sharpness, very few flaws, and while with some cheaper lenses you'd throw away a chunk of images that were misfocused, autofocus reliability used to be one of the biggest differences between budget lenses and premium lenses, but with these, I had no issues whatsoever with autofocus. In terms of sharpness, wide open, the 35mm is really sharp in the center, sharp in the corners, but it gets sharp across the frame at f2.8 and beyond, and you really see it at f5.6, especially if you're shooting landscapes or anything with detail across the frame. And I would say the same thing about the 55mm, tack sharp wide open, corners are good but not excellent, but at f2.8 and beyond they do sharpen right up. One of the biggest areas where you will see some compromise is vignetting wide open. There is a lot of vignetting at f1.8 with the 35mm. It gets much brighter in the corners at f2.8, and at f5.6 it's bright throughout. The same can be said about the 55mm, perhaps even worse. It's very vignette heavy wide open. f2.8 it brightens up, and beyond that it's great. And this was really the same thing that I saw with the 85mm f2. Tons of vignetting wide open, and then as you stop it down, the corners get both sharper and brighter. The other issue with vignetting is you lose some contrast when your image is so dark, and so the result is oftentimes this moody sort of slightly washed out look, which I didn't mind so much in my samples. I thought it was kind of a cool look, but it isn't perfect in this area, and this is one of the most common trade-offs that you see in compact fast primes just like this. A perfect lens would have very little to no vignetting and would have higher levels of contrast wide open. The second area of compromise with these mid-tier lenses is on the video side. If you pull focus, you'll notice a bit of focus breathing. Quite a bit. In fact, the 35mm breathes or moves as you move focus from one extreme to the other. The 55mm is the same, as is the 85mm that was previously released. My guess is this is due to the size of the lenses, as most of the lenses that I've tested that show very little focus breathing are significantly larger and also more expensive than these. In terms of bokeh, you get nice, clean, circular, out of focus balls in the center of the frame. They turn into footballs in the corners and the edges, but the balls themselves are very nice. No onion ringing, no fringing, no weird textures. It's evident that Viltrox cares about how backgrounds render, and especially on the 55mm, you get beautiful out of focus areas. Chromatic aberration is visible at times, but very well controlled. A cheap lens would not be able to produce an image like this. You'd see purple and green everywhere. Here it's barely noticeable. Even Loca fringing is there at times, but it showed up very little in my samples. What surprises me most about the Evo line here isn't that they're good lenses for the price, it's that they're just plain good lenses, period. And again, I didn't have to throw out a single sample due to the autofocus not doing what it was supposed to do. Another area where mid-tier lenses constantly struggled more noticeably was with flare. Flare control with this Evo line is better than average. I wouldn't say it's as good as the most expensive art lenses out there, but it's nowhere near as bad as many budget lenses, somewhere in the upper half of the middle. There are some lens flares, but contrast levels are fairly strong. The experience of using these lenses is further improved because they are small but tactile, they are light but still fully featured. Aperture ring and all of these switches and buttons that you'd want are on the body, unlike the Air series where you have nothing. So if you want to go from, let's say, f1.8 to f16, there you go, and you can go back just as quickly. So they are great for travel work, for everyday walk around work. They feel great when they are on the camera. As much as I like the Viltrox Pro lineup, you start to notice the size and the weight, but with these you never do. They aren't distracting, they don't require fiddling with the menu in your camera to get the settings right. They get out of the way and let you capture moments, which is what great lenses should do. If you are a first-time prime buyer, if you are upgrading your full frame kit, if you want to travel light and have a solid compact option, these are lenses that absolutely belong on your shortlist. The only compromises are the vignetting, and the focus breathing. In every other category, these lenses are excellent, and the price is really where the mid-tier category starts to make the most sense. These new lenses are under $400 US at launch and might be on sale when this video comes out, so check out the links down in the description. Viltrox does run sales pretty regularly, so I think that picking up these lenses, let's say for a little over $300 US, will be very possible. And the equivalent Sony lens is at least twice the price at $800 or so. I will say that these two new lenses are priced a little bit higher than the 85mm, which is currently $275 without any sale. With a sale, you can pick up one of these things for around $220 US, which is an absolute steal. There's really no full frame portrait lens that can beat that for $220. That being said, even at the $300 to $400 range, these two new lenses represent a strong value if you understand and can live with the flaws. And this line doesn't mean that premium lenses don't make any more sense. When you look at the Sigma Art lineup, the Canon L lenses, Sony GMs, those all offer extreme edge sharpness, near perfection wide open, suppression of all distortions, clinical attributes that some people cannot live without. What lenses like this Evo line have changed is how much you're having to give up if you don't buy those top tier lenses. So whereas in the past the budget camp and the premium camp were seemingly very far from each other, this middle tier has quietly become perhaps the most interesting camp to check out if you are building a kit today. For not a whole lot of money, you are getting a whole lot of lens. And those are my favorite types of lenses, the ones that quietly outperform your expectations. I think this category is going to become the default recommendation for a lot of photographers over the next few years, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. What should the next Evo lens be in this lineup? So we have a 35, a 55, 85, maybe something ultra wide, maybe something out at 105. Let me know down below. If you guys want to check these lenses out, read more about them, see what pricing looks like, check out any coupon codes if I have them and I find them down there, please use those links down below. And thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.